Welcome to the News Report radio show, your go-to source for weekend news updates. I'm Vassilios Nicolaos Vitsilogiannis. Join us every Saturday and Sunday at 1200 and 2100 EET for in-depth coverage of the major past week's news. Our show is produced and distributed by the Museum of Radio Broadcasting Arts. We're committed to delivering accurate and insightful reporting. Stay tuned as we bring you the most relevant stories from around the globe. We commence with Monday's top story. It was December 11, 2023. The Israel-Palestine war continues to escalate, with the death toll in Gaza nearing 18,000 since October 7. The conflict has resulted in a humanitarian crisis in Gaza, with reports of extensive damage to mosques and hospitals. Hamas has issued a warning that Israel will not receive hostages alive unless it meets its demands. At the same time, the UN General Assembly is set to hold an emergency meeting after the US vetoed a ceasefire resolution. In response to the ongoing conflict, Palestinians have called for a global strike on December 11 to demand an immediate ceasefire. The strike has been called by the National and Islamic Forces, a coalition of major Palestinian factions, and is supported by trade union activists and international influencers. The coalition has called on people across the globe to unite in sending a message of solidarity with the children and elderly who have come under Israel's bombardment of Gaza. The strike also opposes attempts to undermine the just national cause of the Palestinian people. The conflict has divided the world, with some countries condemning Israel's actions while others support its right to defend itself. The situation remains dire, with no clear end in sight. And now let's move on to Tuesday's top story, as the French President Emmanuel Macron's government is facing a crisis after the rejection of a key immigration bill by opposition parties. The bill, aimed at controlling immigration and integrating migrants, was defeated as MPs from the far right, far left, and moderate right and left united to reject it. The left argued that the measures were too repressive, while the right claimed that the bill was not tough enough. The defeat is a significant blow to Macron's government, which has already lost its majority in parliament. The rejection of the bill has left the government in a difficult position, with Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne and key ministers holding a crisis meeting to decide the next steps. Macron has rejected the offer of his hardline Interior Minister Gerald Darmanin to step down and has ordered him to find new ways to push the legislation through. The outcome of the vote is deeply frustrating for Macron, and the government is now facing the challenge of finding a way forward. The rejection of the bill has also raised questions about the government's control and its ability to advance its legislative agenda. The defeat is seen as a potential setback for Macron, and the government is now under pressure to find a way to address the immigration issue. The rejection of the bill has led to calls for the government to withdraw it, marking the end of the legislative process. The defeat of the immigration bill is a significant political development that has put Macron's government in crisis and raised questions about its ability to govern effectively. This is our next top story for Wednesday about El Salvador wanting to become the next Singapore. Amid significant reforms and the adoption of Bitcoin as legal tender, El Salvador has captured the attention of crypto enthusiasts who see the country as the next Singapore, a burgeoning financial hub. President Bukele's bold move to make Bitcoin a legal tender has sparked a wave of optimism and attracted praise from some investors. The country's embrace of cryptocurrency and innovative technologies, coupled with its natural resources and strategic location, has led to comparisons with Singapore's economic success. The revised securities laws and the focus on Bitcoin as a core element of the country's international trading strategy have further fueled this perception. Max Kaiser, a prominent Bitcoin maximalist, outlined the steps for El Salvador's transformation, emphasizing the potential for the country to become a central financial hub in Latin America. Additionally, the government's efforts to attract new capital investment and immigration have been highlighted as key drivers of this transformation. While the prospect of El Salvador becoming the next Singapore has garnered enthusiasm, concerns remain, particularly regarding the country's citizenship program and long-term implications of its economic reforms. Despite the ongoing debate, El Salvador's journey towards becoming a prominent player in the crypto world continues to unfold, with the potential to reshape its economy and position itself as a leading hub for financial innovation in the Americas. One of the major top stories is about Kosovo. The Kosovo court has upheld the conviction of Salih Mustafa, a former rebel commander in the Kosovo Liberation Army, KLA, for running a makeshift torture center where he and his men brutally assaulted fellow ethnic Albanians they accused of spying for Serb forces. Mustafa was found guilty in December of arbitrary detention, torture, and murder. However, the court reduced his sentence from 26 years to 22 years. The Kosovo Specialist Chambers, a high-security court that operates under Kosovo law but is based in the Netherlands, handed down the verdict. The court was established in 2015, and this was its first war crimes judgment. The Kosovo War, which ended in 2000, left 13,000 people dead and was triggered by Serbian President Slobodan Milosevic's forces withdrawing after an 11-week NATO bombing. During the trial, the prosecution argued that Mustafa and his men arbitrarily detained and tortured prisoners, including those perceived as spying for Serb forces. The court agreed with the prosecution and convicted Mustafa of the charges. Initially, Mustafa was sentenced to 26 years in prison. However, the appeals panel reduced his sentence by 4 years, citing mitigating circumstances. The court's decision was hailed as a milestone for the Kosovo Specialist Chambers. The court is currently running a war crimes trial against former Kosovo President Hashim Thaçi, who resigned following his indictment. The reduction in Mustafa's sentence has been seen as a sign of progress in the court's ability to balance the need for justice with the reality of the situation on the ground. That was Thursday's top story. Let's move on to Friday's news. China has defended the controversial cash bounties offered for Hong Kong dissidents who have fled abroad, which have been heavily criticized by various countries and organizations. These bounties, totaling $1 million Hong Kong, have been placed on 5 overseas pro-democracy activists, including Nathan Law, Anne Kwok, Finn Law, former lawmakers Dennis Hawk and Ted Hui, lawyer and legal scholar Kevin Yam, unionist Mang Sui Tat, and online commentator Yang Gongying, all of whom are in self-imposed exile in either the United States, the UK, or Australia. The Chinese government claims that these bounties are necessary for maintaining national security and stability in Hong Kong. However, critics argue that the bounties threaten the liberty and safety of the activists targeted and further compound the existing climate of fear in Hong Kong. Amnesty International has called on host countries of the overseas activists to withdraw these absurd and dangerous bounties immediately and release the individuals targeted. The placement of bounties on the activists' heads has raised concerns about the Hong Kong authorities' systematic dismantling of human rights and the tactic of placing Wild West-style bounties on activists' heads. This move has garnered significant international attention and criticism, highlighting the growing tensions between China and the international community over the treatment of Hong Kong dissidents. As we conclude today's news report, we reflect on the significant events and developments that have shaped our understanding of the world. We thank you, all of you, our viewers, for tuning in and entrusting us to keep you informed. Your support is invaluable, and we look forward to bringing you more compelling stories in the future. Until next time, have a nice weekend.